Hello and welcome to the latest Idiot's Guide from the FPL Affairs podcast, the podcast that strips back and lays bare our season-long love affair with FPL. In our latest guide, we focus on team structure, so what it is and how it may impact your season. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for all of our content, and ring that bell to be notified each time we release a new video. Anyway, enough of my small talk. Let's get cracking.
And there's Mo Salah. There goes Haaland. He's on his way again. He's hungry. He's scored. Ice cold precision from Palmer. Kayo Saka. That is a diamond of a goal.
Welcome everybody from me, Matt, aka the FPL Affairs Magpie, bringing to you these idiots' first guide of the 25-26 season, which we are focusing on team structure. First and foremost, congratulations to the Lionesses on regaining their European Champions title. This video follows on nicely from our final reading from FPL Obsessed, which was his golden rule about selecting your team, which is making sure you've got each price point covered for each part of the field. There are different ways you can structure your team, which we'll get started with. Anyway, let's get cracking. So, the Idiot's Guide to Team Structure. The first question is, what is team structure? So, team structure is effectively how you spread your budget to ideally cover all price points. With the brand new defensive contributions change, or DEFCON, as it's been nicknamed so far, as well as new forwards, there are discussions on spreading the money differently. This video shares extreme examples of focusing on different areas of the squad, as well as a balanced squad, which I spoke about in the final FPL Obsessed Golden Rule reading. The first team structure we're going to look at is the big at the back approach, which is where the manager invests more money in the goalkeeper and defensive positions. The purpose of the players selected is not necessarily the players selected themselves, but more covering what particular price points for each place. So, for example, the one that's given as premium goalkeeper at 5.5 million, in which case for this example is Raya of Arsenal, with Kinski from Spurs as the backup, but only going for a 4 million backup. Across the defence, the main strength emphasis on big at the back is going with 3 6 million starting defenders, Aït-Nouri, Virgil van Dijk and Cucurella. The fourth defender, Tarkowski, he was selected as the 5.5 largely because if you have or have not heard of the defensive contributions change to this season, which is covered in the other forthcoming Idiot's Guide on game changes and key rules, Tarkowski of Everton would have got last season an extra 44 points had this change been applicable then. And it all really relates to if a defender makes at least 10 clearances, tackles, blocks, interceptions within a game, they get an extra 2 points. They can't get more than 2 points, but they get 2 if they get a minimum of cumulative 10. And Tarkowski was the best in the league for that last season, had it would been applicable. So that's why he's in there as the fourth defender. And the final one Wan-Bissaka, and actually of West Ham. In a recent friendly, he would have got defensive contribution points, but he's more of a fullback than some of the others, but is the cheaper end, 4.5 million, just that placeholder at the end. So that total, let's see if my maths is doing correctly. We've got 9.5 million of the budget spent on the goalkeepers. You've got 28 million spent on the defence. In midfield, gone with Salah and Wirtz, Enzo of Chelsea, partly with his goal contributions, or defensive contributions, should I say, as the 6.5 placeholder. Adingra, the budget end, 5.5 defensive contributions. Main midfielder in here, and quite a popular pick at the moment, is Ndiaye of Everton, the second £6.5 million midfielder. Penalty taking for Everton, as well as goals and some assists, which he got last season. So taking note, each price point is covered. So Mo Salah, if for whatever reason you wanted to sell him, that he can be transferred to anyone. Wirtz covers around the 8.5 million, maybe a stretch to get up to Palmer or Saka. You've got two 6.5 million placeholders, which could be, if you save 500,000 somewhere, and there's actually 500,000 in the bank of this. So Enzo and DI covering the sort of 6.5 to 7 million price bracket, and Adingra holding in for, well, any 5.5. Midfield. So the budget spent on the midfield is 41.5 million. The forward line, this is really downside of going big at the back, is you've got to sacrifice somewhere. In this selection, it's big sacrifice up front. You've got two 7.5 millions in Mateta and Wood, but there are alternative options at 7.5 million, such as João Pedro and Solanke. You've also got Evan Nielsen at 7. And the third striker is Beto of Everton. Actually, this selection, only just noticed, has come up with triple Everton as well as triple Liverpool, which personally I'm not too keen on the triple ups. I'm on the side of caution. Too much investment there. But more importantly, it's about the team structure and price points in this example. The main sacrifice of big at the back, getting 3.6 millions and 5.5, is the minimal spend on the front three. Because if Haaland or Isak, wherever he ends up, or Watkins or Gyökeres, apologies if I've mispronounced that, Arsenal fans, if any of those hit the ground running, then you're going to be looking at making 2-3 transfers to get them in, especially as with these, you've only got two 7.5 million price brackets and 5.5. So big at the back, first structure to look at. Personally, although there's defensive contribution points change, which I really welcome this season, to be fair, I'm not convinced though that going big at the back is the way to go, because with that amount of money there, I'd feel inclined to be playing 4 defenders every week. So I'd even be, depending on fixtures, considering either 4-4-2 or 4, possibly even 4-5-1 every week. And you'll miss out a lot of points going forwards. Anyway, moving on to our next team structure, which is a mighty midfield, where it basically flooded the midfield with premium priced players and one budget enabler. So this one saved a bit of money in the goalkeepers, 1 million to be precise, by going for Petrovic instead of Raya. Petrovic of Bournemouth. Kinski as the reserve, we don't know whether he's first choice for Spurs or not. As it stands, possibly not. So you'd need to up that perhaps to another 4.5 that would either rotate with Petrovic or not. Across the defence, Wan-Bissaka I've kept in there, but to really focus and emphasise on these team structure examples, I went very extreme at the defence. I've filled it entirely with 4.5 million defenders, which you wouldn't necessarily need to do if you're concentrating on your midfield. You could up any of those to a 5 or a 5.5. But anyway, the 4.5s I put in for this as 4.5 million placeholders were Mark Gay of Crystal Palace, but that could be Lacroix. He was actually good last season for defensive contributions. Conte of Aston Villa. Aston Villa arguably got the best opening 8 fixtures as a collective, despite the first fixture being a tough one at home to Newcastle. I'm trying to say that from an impartial perspective and not a biased one. Van de Ven, but that could be any Tottenham defender, really. He's holding the fort as well. And the Kuiper of Brighton, who's I think is rumoured on set pieces. I may need to check that fact. Correct me in the comments if I am incorrect. But yeah, filling the back 5 all defenders in at 4.5. So 22.5 million on the defence with 8.5 million in goal. In midfield is really stacked. You've got the most expensive 3 midfielders in Salah, Palmer, and Saka. The defensive contributions representative of Caicedo at 5.5 million, and the 8.5 million price point in here. This example is Marmoush, but that could be alternatives. It could be Verts. If you want to go with a shiny new toy from the foreign imports transfers over the summer. So with that hefty midfield is an expense of whopping 49 million spent on just those 5, which again, like the big at the back team structure, the sacrifice really from placeholders is up front. This is where it's most noticeable. Solanke, good choice, popular choice at 7.5 million, provided he recovers from the slight injury he has at the moment. Beto as the 5.5 placeholder and 6.5 million Welbeck. So with this one, yes, obviously the focus is going on the midfield and the attacking prowess of the midfield. Fixtures wise, Arsenal's aren't the easiest to start off with, although fixture 2, which I think is home to Leeds, is the pick of the bunch. You've got the Liverpool of Salah. Marmoush, will have to see where he comes into it. But again, there are alternatives at that price point. You've basically got as cheap as you can get defence, entirely 4.5s. So that would need clever pickings from that category if you were going to do that. I would say really mighty midfield. I would probably look at dropping the Marmoush price point down to Morgan Rogers, saving you 1.5 million. Again, there's 500,000 in the bank for this. And with that 1.5 million, use that to either up Welbeck to Jared Bowen at 8 million or one of the other 7.5 millions. Or you could up Beto to Evan Nilsson at 7 mils. Love that midfield, mostly, but shows that imbalance, to be fair. Right, let's move on to a feisty front line. top heavy. Just to save whizzing through it, I've left up the goalkeepers and 5 defenders as the same, but again, they could be any 4.5 million defenders, any of the 4.5 million goalkeepers, which I'm not too keen on. Midfield, Saka's been replaced. The Arsenal representative is 6.5 million Declan Rice on set pieces, and theoretically is the most likely to get defensive contributions from their midfield. Salah has been downgraded to Verts at 8.5 million. Marmoush maintaining his 8.5 million. Caicedo's holding the fort in there as the Chelsea midfielder, and as a differential punt was Arias, new signing for Wolves, who did quite well in the Club World Cup for one of the South American teams. Scored an absolute peach as well. And then up front, it's called top heavy for a reason. Isak, Haaland, and Watkins, the 3 most expensive forwards, although Watkins has been joined on 9 million by Gyökeres, and Ekitike is in at 8.5. Looking at these, yes, obviously everyone's going to love that front line, although where Isak ends up could affect his selection, and also how Gyökeres starts for Arsenal. Does he start or does he struggle initially? Those are things to have to say, but Watkins do like that pick because he's got a good group of 8 opening fixtures. Haaland generally starts seasons quite well. You think back to last season, he scored 11 goals in the opening 5 games. Scary thought. The other scary thought, obviously, is no Mo Salah, who's the highest owned player in the game, whereas Haaland, I think, is actually under 20% owned. So if he hits the ground running, and Salah with Liverpool's signings, and possibly he's yet to come, we shall have to see. Are the goals going to be spread about a bit more for Liverpool, or is Salah going to get more than his fair share? That's one question mark over him, I would say. Midfield looks okay in parts. Not too sure about having 2 5.5s though, if you haven't got Salah in there. So I think I'd be tempted if I was going for a Haaland draft over Salah and I was going with a heavy front line, then I'd probably keep Haaland and Watkins and review the third spot. That would be a review, but it'd still be a good pick whether he's at Newcastle or Liverpool. But I said beforehand to myself, I'm not going to talk about him too much. That's not the point, and it's annoying me. So anyway, team structure, top heavy. Again, like with the midfield, weak at the back, imbalance in itself in midfield, and I think budget needs moving from the front line. So moving on to one which is not my initial draft and it's not my current draft either. I just wanted to try to get all price points or most price points covered with a balance throughout. So starting with the goalkeepers, I've gone quite expensive, 9.5 million combined with a mid premium in Sells, Nottingham Forest, and his rotation with Petrovic is okay. But 2 solid starting keepers with defences that did relatively well last season. Bournemouth, big change with Kirkes leaving and Huijsen leaving and Kepa leaving. But we shall monitor over pre-season how they do and whether Petrovic would be a worthwhile pick or not. But in that fixture, he'd definitely get save points. Sales, Forest, quite solid. He's going to get save points. joint most clean sheets last season, if I recall. In the defence, gone with 2 6 million starters. Virgil out of the new DEFCON change defensive points, which is really veering more away from the attacking fullbacks of recent years towards favouring maybe mid-table-ish teams. And just to clarify, I'm not calling Liverpool a mid-table team, but more the teams that the defenders that didn't do well for defensive contributions were really the central defenders or any defenders of the top teams that build out from the back because they don't make as many clearances. Virgil, largely when people would try to play the ball over the top, so over Trent or so on, Virgil was a beast winning the ball in the air. So each cleared header, therefore, counts towards this season's DEFCON points because it's a clearance. So he's one of the 6 mils. Cucurella, based on his performance at the back end of last season, as well as some moments in the Club World Cup, he's thrown in there. Kilman of West Ham with a good opening fixture, and he did quite well, I think, for DEFCON last season. In the Idiot's Guide to the Season Changes, will include a table of the best defenders for defensive contributions last season. De Kuiper's in there for Brighton set pieces. So with that, you're looking at 0.5 million to spend on the defence. Added to the 9.5 million on goalkeepers, you've got 35 million spent on the defensive 7 players. Moving on to midfield, you've got the highest price point of Mo Salah at 14.5 million. The next price point down of Cole Palmer, 10.5, so he could easily be switched to Saka, slightly cheaper, or Bruno Fernandes at 9, or any of the 8.5 midfielders. Below that, you've then got 2 6.5s in Kudus, with a great fixture at home to Burnley in the opening day, and again, Declan Rice as the Arsenal representative. The 5th midfielder and the midfield placeholder in a way is Christie of Bournemouth, who again he did really well for defensive contributions in his time on the pitch last season. And I feel like I'm saying DEFCON every 2 minutes, or actually more frequently than that. So I best try to with that bit. Moving up front, you've got Watkins at more of the top end of the budget. So at 9 million, he's not too far off Isak's price point if you were to go there, if he hits the season, banging in goals wherever that is. Then got the next bracket down of Chris Wood, holding the 7.5 million. And then the more budgetary end of Beto, again, at 5.5 million. So with me, myself, what is good about this squad? The price points covered, roughly complete. You can pretty much, other than Haaland, you can get to anyone in either one straight move or 2. Generally don't like to make goalkeeper transfers, defensive transfers, and I think this has got 500,000 in the bank. You could get to a 5.5 million defender, whether that be a Forest one or Tarkovsky, you can get to from Cucurella or Virgil. 5 million defenders, you can just take a step up from either Kilman, Konsa, or De Kuiper. So you can easily get to one of those, especially with that 500,000 in the bank. That's quite achievable. From Palmer's price point, as I said, you can get down to the next cluster of midfields. There's a lot of 6.5, 7 mil midfielders, which Rice and Kudus cover. And if at any point you were slightly downgrading any of those players. Christie could always be up to a 5.5 million midfielder. Yeah. So out of the team structured, I prefer the balanced one simply because a lot more price points covered in each area of the field. You've got a mid-price premium goalkeeper, you've got two premium price defenders, you've got two most expensive midfielders, two in the sort of mid to lower range bracket of 6.5s, and then the forwards, you've got premium in Watkins, mid-price 7.5 million with Chris Wood as the example, and then the more budget end of better at 5.5. I've outlined roughly why I like the balanced option. Just looking at the how the budget has been spread. You've got 9.5 million on the goalkeepers. You've got 25.5 million on the defenders, 43 million pounds spent on the midfield, and 22 million spent up front. If anything, if I was being picky, I'd possibly review the Palmer to maybe up Beto to a 6.5. I don't know, but I'm still tinkering myself, and this isn't mine precisely, but there's a lot of players in there who are on my watch lists for pre-season. And the main reason I have not shared my first draft is because that is coming up in our next video, which I've been really looking forward to making. It's the first draft for the entire FPL Affairs admin team. So we've got a whopping 11 first drafts, all made in the first couple of days since the game was released. It's been a while trying to actually post, largely because I've been nagging any of them being brave as to joining me on screen, so it's not just me droning on and on and on about the whole time. Plus, it means they'd be able to defend their own choices and give an alternative perspective on each of the drafts there. Anyway, where you can find us, how to get in touch via email, lowercase fplaffairs@gmail.com. On X, our handle is FPL Affairs. Facebook group, lowercase Fantasy Premier League FPL1, although if you just search in the groups for FPL Affairs will come up straight away. Our YouTube channel, which you may be watching this from, is handle at FPL Affairs, so youtube.com/@ FPL Affairs, and Spotify. The link is in the description because theirs never comes up as a full, clear sentence. Oh, and final thought on that slide, you'll notice on the right-hand side, I've included, first of all, my 3-year overall rank. So taking into account our overall ranks over the last 3 years, I'm ranked 6,000 in the world. Underneath that, I've got the FPL Affairs FPL League code. So we've got the classic league code of 12RRCG and the head-to-head league code of WRNFSG. Well, I guess all that's left to say is keep your FPL Affairs under wraps. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and hope you can keep following these idiot guides. Goodbye, everybody.